Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 23 of Spotlight on What's Next. We are talking today about from adaptive dominance to strategic permanence, building what continues to win. Over the past several weeks, we have moved through a deliberate leadership evolution from strategic leverage, measurable impact, sustained trajectory, endurance under pressure, strategic opportunity, ecosystem shaping, institutional leverage, continuous reinvention, and now in week 23, we address the next defining leadership questions. Once organizations can adapt continuously, how do they create advantage that endures across generations of change? Because in 2026, adaptation is becoming expected, but permanence is becoming rare. So the emerging leadership reality is winning once is no longer enough. Across government, AI, cybersecurity, defense, healthcare, energy, education, entrepreneurship, and enterprise systems, a new reality is emerging. Organizations are becoming increasingly capable of adapting rapidly, integrating new technologies, responding to disruption, redesigning operating models, accelerating decision cycles, evolving workforce capabilities. Yet many still struggle with a larger challenge. Their success is temporary. They adapt, they recover, they improve, but they fail to create enduring advantage. The result is a continuous cycle of rebuilding, relearning, and reestablishing relevance. Organizations become skilled at surviving change, but never reach the point where change consistently strengthens their position. The patterns that leaders must recognize now are historically leaders viewed success as growth, performance, market share, innovation, visibility, organizational scale. Then the conversation evolved towards resilience, adaptability, and agility. These remain important. But in 2026, a deeper question emerged. What allows some organizations to remain relevant through multiple waves of disruption while others repeatedly start over? The answer is not technology. It is not funding. It is not size. It is strategic performance. So the next leadership shift is about making a critical transition from adapting to change to designing systems that become stronger because of change. They're asking a different question, not how do we remain competitive, but how do we continuously increase relevance regardless of what changes around us? This represents a fundamental shift. Adaptation reacts and permanence compounds. What strategic permanence actually looks like? Strategic permanence is not rigidity. It is not resisting innovation. It is not preserving outdated systems. It is not strategic. It is the ability to preserve purpose while evolving execution, strengthening trust through continuous change, maintaining relevance across technology cycles, developing leaders faster than disruption develops challenges, sustaining advantage across leadership transitions, creating systems that learn faster than competitors. Permanence is where adaptability becomes institutional strength. There are four strategic permanence moves for week 23. One, design for continuous learning, because the future will belong to organizations that learn faster than conditions change. High performing organizations are building knowledge ecosystems, institutional learning systems, AI enabled insights, continuous improvement cultures, because learning velocity is becoming competitive velocity. Build leadership across generations. Organizations often invest heavily in current leaders. Exceptional organizations invest equally in future leaders. They develop succession pipelines, mentoring networks, leadership laboratories, and cross functional experiences because sustainable advantage requires leadership continuity. Align innovation with purpose. Innovation without direction creates complexity. Purpose without innovation creates stagnation. And the strongest organizations align both. They ask, does this innovation strengthen our mission? Does this improve stakeholder value? Does this reinforce long-term positioning? Because strategic permanence requires disciplined evolution. Institutionalized trust. Trust has been a recurring theme throughout this series for a reason, because trust remains the foundation of sustainable performance. Organizations that endure reinforce trust through transparency, accountability, ethical leadership, responsible AI governance, consistent execution, because trust compounds over time, and compounded trust becomes strategic advantage. So why does this matter so much now? Well, the leadership environment of 2026 continues to be shaped by AI acceleration, geopolitical competition, workforce transformation, infrastructure constraints, digital trust concerns, ecosystem convergence, increasing stakeholder expectations. And organizations that achieve strategic permanence will attract stronger talent, maintain stakeholder trust, sustain innovation, increase resilience, strengthen mission performance, and shape future ecosystems. Organizations that do not may find themselves repeatedly adapting without ever advancing. The differentiator will not simply be speed, the differentiator will be durability. So take a moment this week to consider what capabilities will remain valuable 5 years from now. What knowledge is at risk of being lost? What are we adapting without learning? What systems become stronger through disruption? What would strategic permanence look like for our organization? Because these are not operational questions, they are future positioning signals. So choose one critical capability within your organization, then ask, is this dependent on people or embedded in systems? Is learning captured and shared? Is leadership continuity established? Will this remain relevant through future disruption? What one action would strengthen its long-term durability? And then take that action this week, because adaptability creates survival, dominance creates advantage, permanence creates legacy. So what comes next? In week 24, we move into from strategic permanence to generational impact, how leaders shape systems that influence industries, institutions, and societies. Why the ultimate measure of leadership is not what we build today, but what continues creating value tomorrow. So, our closing thought for today is that trust creates confidence, traction creates movement, transformation creates capability, trajectory creates direction. Endurance creates stability, expansion creates opportunity, influence shapes ecosystems, legacy creates continuity, dominance creates advantage, but permanence is what determines whether advantage survives the future. And in the leadership environment of 2026, the organizations that lead will not simply adapt to change, they will become stronger because change occurs. This is Dr. Rhonda Farrell, CEO of Global Innovation Strategies, winding up week 23 of Spotlight on What's Next 2026, from adaptive dominance to strategic permanence, building what continues to win.